Hey guys, welcome back to Everyone Can Do Math. Today we are going to be talking about absolute value again, but this time we're going to be solving some sample problems. So if you were studying absolute value, what kind of problems would your teacher probably give you? How would you solve those problems? What do you need to know to solve those problems? We're going to cover all of that in this video. But before we get started, if you could please if you could please subscribe. I would love to keep making these free tutoring videos for you, and that would really help me be able to do that. Let's dig in. And oh, one more thing, before we get started, I made a video already that just kind of explained the absolute value concept. So for time's sake, I'm not going to go into that again today. But if you do need help kind of understanding what the absolute value is, what it means, all of that, go ahead. It's a really short video, and I think that would help you understand a little more before you come back and do these problems with me. Okay, let's go ahead and let's get started. Okay, so you can see on the screen I have a few absolute value problems written out for us. So this is what a typical problem would look like. You see you have an absolute value, but instead of just a number in there, you have kind of an equation looking thing and it equals something, okay? So this is the thing. We talked before about how absolute value, when you take something out of an absolute value, it always has to be positive, okay? Now, remember before I said the absolute value of 4 is going to equal 4. But also, if we had the absolute value of -4, that would also give us a 4. Why? Because it has to be positive, okay? So keep that in mind when we're doing our problems, and you're going to see why that is so important right now when we talk about how to go about solving this problem. So, in order to solve absolute value problems, you have to set them up in two ways. And both ways will require you to remove the absolute value system. So we have here the absolute value of 2x minus 2, and that's equal to 4. So the first way we can set that up is 2x minus 2 is equal to 4. We're able to say that because one way that we could get this left side of the equation to equal 4 would be for the insides to equal 4. Just what I showed you before, the absolute value of 4 is equal to 4, right? So that is why this equation is true. But what is the other way that we could get this part of the equation equal to 4? Do you remember? I just showed you what it was. It could also equal -4 because the -4 has to be positive. So because that is true, because this could also equal -4, we go ahead and write that on the other side. 2x minus 2 could also be equal to -4. So in order to solve this absolute value problem, we're going to have more than one solution. So these are two separate problems, and we have to solve both to see what our solutions are. Solutions, plural. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and solve these problems. We're going to go ahead and add our 2. 2x is equal to 6. So we're going to go ahead and divide our 2. X is equal to 3 on this side of the problem. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to add our 2. 2x is equal to -2. We're going to divide by our 2, Here, x is equal to -1. So if you needed to give the answers, you could say x is equal to 3 and x is equal to -1. And the great thing, well, one of the great things about math is you can pretty much check, usually you can check and see if your answer is correct. And all we have to do is go ahead and plug that back in. So we're going to plug that back in to this and see if that actually does give us 4. So let's try it with this. So we had 2, And now we're going to say our x is 3 minus 2 absolute value is equal to 4. Okay, so 2 times 3 gives us 6. 6 minus 2 gives us 4. So this would be the absolute value of 4 is equal to 4. 4 is equal to 4, and that is correct. Now we're going to go do the same thing on the other side. 2x, here our x is equal to negative 1, minus 2 is equal to 4. So here our 2 minus 1 is equal to negative 2, and negative 2 minus 2 is going to give us negative 4. So the absolute value of negative 4 is equal to 4. Go ahead. Oops, I didn't mean to put the 4 is equal to 4. Check. Okay. So does that make sense? The reason that we did this is because whatever's in here, remember, I just really want you to understand this part, because if you understand it, it's going to make sense to you. I'm going to go ahead and write off to the side. Sorry, the writing's getting a little crowded. I showed you how the absolute value of 4, is equal to 4. Remember, we have to make it positive. The absolute value of negative 4 is also equal to 4. Why? Because we have to make it positive, okay? So you can see over here in this equation, that's basically what we have. We have this side, we have equal to 4, well, we have that over here. And then we have absolute values. We have both things right here that are equal to 4. So that's why we can set this part right here. We can say, well, we know that this has to either equal 4 over here or negative 4. And that's why we were able to solve that way. We're going to do some more examples. And if you're, if it's still sounding a little tricky, go ahead and check out that last video. But I'm going to keep doing more problems, and we're gonna get it. All right. So this example right here. Now you can see we have our 3x. The 3x is the only thing in the absolute value. So this is absolute value right here. So 3x minus 1 is equal to 8, and the 1 is not an absolute value. So we want to get the absolute value on the side by itself, because we do. So if you have something else on this side of your equation, you really want to move it to the other side so you can go ahead and solve for that absolute value. So we have this 1. So the first thing we're going to do is add the 1 on both sides. That's going to leave us with 3x, an absolute value, is equal to 9. And also, when I'm doing this video, I'm kind of assuming that I tried to make the problems kind of simple, so I'm kind of assuming that you know how to do like these algebra problems. If you do not know how to do these, go ahead and let me know below, so I can also maybe try and make a video about this or explain how to solve these sorts of problems if that's something that you're interested in. But I tried to make the problems really basic because I don't want to get caught up in the algebra of it. I just want to get you to understand the absolute value part of it. Okay, so now we have our 3x is equal to 9, okay? So this is where we're going to go ahead and start doing that absolute value thing. Now, let's just go over here and take a little side note. So we know that whatever we want, we know that whatever on this side is equal to 9, because that's literally what the equation is telling us. So this has to be equal to 9. That's what the equation says. So how can an absolute value be equal to 9? Well, there's 2 ways, and you already know what they are. The first one would be if it was just 9. And the second way would be if it was negative 9. Both of these would have to become positive and be equal to 9. Okay, so because we know that whatever is inside of this absolute value has to be equal to 9 or negative 9, we can make equations from that. So what is actually in our absolute value over here? Well, we have 3x. So if we're going to pick option A and we'll say let's set that equal to 9, because the absolute value of 9 would be equal to 9, which is over here in our equation. Say 3x is equal to 9. The other option, again, we have negative 9 now. So we could say that whatever over here is in our absolute value, which is 3x, we would set that equal to negative 9. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and divide our 3. X is going to be equal to 3. And then go ahead and divide our 3 over here. X is equal to negative 3. So our solutions would be 3 and negative 3. Now you may be wondering, how is it possible we end up with a negative answer if this is absolute value? Absolute value is supposed to be positive. Yes, that is true. Whatever comes outside of the absolute value has to be positive. But what we are solving for is this x right here. So that does not have to be positive. It doesn't matter if you put a negative, it doesn't matter if you put a decimal, it doesn't matter what you put inside of the absolute value. All that matters is that whatever comes out is positive. So you can absolutely have a negative solution for these absolute value problems. Now if you wanted to check the problems, we're going to go ahead and plug that 3 in. So we're going to go ahead and plug it into this, plug in our 3 and our negative 3. So we have the absolute value of 3x, this would be 3, minus 1 is equal to 8. So this is going to give us the absolute value of 9 minus 1 is equal to 8, which is going to give us 9 minus 1 equals 8. 8 equals 8. That's right. And you can go ahead and do the same thing with your negative 3. So you have 3x, which is going to be our negative 3, minus 1 equals 8. So it's going to be the absolute value of negative 9 minus 1 is equal to 8, which is going to be 9 minus 1 was 8. Check. So if you're learning, if this is new to you, like I said, I would just always recommend checking your equations just until you get the hang of it. And honestly, even as you go on, I just like to check just to make sure if I did all this work, at least it's gonna be right, you know? Okay. So our last problem we have is a little different than the others because it is set to 0. Okay? So, 0 is an interesting number because there is no positive 0 and negative 0. There's just 0. So, how, like we've been doing before, what absolute value is going to equal 0? Well, 0, right? I mean, what other absolute value number is going to give you 0? There's not going to be a negative 0, no positive 0. It's just 0. So here we only have to solve for one equation. So we're saying the absolute value has to be 0. So this is what we have in our absolute value. So we're going to set that equal to 0. So 2x plus 8 is equal to 0. So 2x, we're going to subtract our 8. So 2x is going to equal negative 8. X is going to equal negative 4. And we're going to say that's our answer. And if we wanted to check that, go ahead, take that x right here, plug it back in. Going to have the absolute value of 2x. We're saying our x is negative 4 plus 8. It's going to give us 0. So 2 times negative 4 is going to give us negative 8. So we have negative 8 plus 8 is equal to 0. Negative 8 plus 8 is going to give us 0. Absolute value of 0 is 0. It's equal to 0. So that is correct. Okay, those are just a few absolute value problems that you may run into. I hope that helps you out with understanding absolute value. Like I said, if you're still a little blurry on it, go ahead and check out my last video. Otherwise, please like and subscribe. I'm really enjoying making these videos for you, and that would be really, really, really helpful. Also, if you have any questions or anything else that I can help you with, let me know in the comments. Alright guys, see you next time.